So let me ask you something. How can a team have the best record in the entire AFC, but everyone who watches them says they're awful? It sounds impossible, right? Well, welcome to the bizarre, fascinating paradox of the 2025 Denver Broncos. They just keep winning, but how they're doing it has everybody scratching their heads.
Okay, let's just lay it all out. On one side of the coin, you've got the numbers. And man, do they look good. We're talking an 8-2 record, a red-hot 7-game winning streak, and they're sitting pretty as the #1 seed in the conference. But then, you flip that coin over, and you've got what people are actually saying when they watch these guys play. Analysts, reporters, heck, even their own players are using words like awful, sloppy, and my personal favorite, a cry for help. So what on earth is really going on in Denver?
So first, let's just look at the hard facts, right? The stuff you can't argue with. And yeah, if you were to just glance at the standings, you'd think the Broncos are this unstoppable juggernaut.
I mean, look at this. 8-2. That's not just the best record in the AFC, that's the best record in the entire NFL. That makes them, by definition, the team everyone's chasing right now.
And look, this isn't some flash in the pan. They didn't just get off to a lucky start. This is a sustained 7-game winning streak. You know the last time they pulled that off? You have to go all the way back to 2015. And yeah, you remember what happened that year. They won the Super Bowl. So that's the kind of historical territory we're in. Okay, so that's the story on paper. But then you actually sit down and watch the games. And that powerhouse, that juggernaut, it just disappears. Because their offense, to put it nicely, is a complete and utter mess.
And you know, the poster child for this whole contradiction has to be their quarterback, Bo Nix. On one hand, if you look at his numbers during this win streak, he was on pace for a legit MVP caliber season. But then you watch their last win, this ugly 10-7 nail-biter, and he looked like a backup. Just 150 yards and 2 really bad interceptions. It was rough.
So rough, in fact, that the home crowd, their own fans, started booing them. Can you imagine? You're the #1 team in the conference, and you're getting booed at home. And what's wild is that after the game, Bo Nix didn't even fight it. He basically said, yeah, I get it. He knows how bad that sounds coming from your own supporters.
And it wasn't just him. This is where it gets really interesting. In a move you almost never see in the NFL, his teammate, running back J.K. Dobbins, came out and publicly agreed with the fans who were booing. He flat out said, yeah, they should be mad, because the offense knows they're loaded with talent and just aren't getting it done.
And get this, even their head coach, Sean Payton, a guy who was supposed to be this legendary offensive mastermind, seemed totally lost. He made this weird comment after the game, kind of joking that he must have been looking at the wrong part of his play sheet. He even took the blame for this baffling trick play they ran that just completely blew up in their faces on a huge down.
And this stat, right here, this really sums up how utterly bizarre these wins are. They won that last game with barely any first downs and a negative turnover margin. Let me put that into perspective for you. The last 88 times a team was in that exact situation, they lost. Every single one of them. 88 straight losses. Until the Broncos just did it.
So that begs the million-dollar question, right? If the offense is this bad, how in the world are they winning? Well, the answer is pretty simple. Their defense isn't just good, it's historically great.
It all boils down to one absolutely staggering number, 46. That's how many sacks this defense has piled up in only 10 games. They're not just getting to the quarterback, they are living in the opponent's backfield. And just so we're clear on how insane that is, you have to go back more than 35 years to find a team that had this many sacks 10 games into a season. We're talking about a level of defensive dominance that just doesn't happen anymore in today's offense-first NFL.
And believe me, people are noticing. The experts are all saying the same thing. This isn't just a defense having a hot streak. This is a legitimate championship-caliber unit. The kind of defense that can throw the entire team on its back and just carry them through the playoffs. So this all brings up a really interesting debate. Is what we're seeing from the Broncos just a fluke? A bug in the system? Or is this a feature? Is this an intentional throwback to a classic, old-school way of winning football games?
It's the age-old question in football, right? What's more important for winning a Super Bowl? A high-flying offense or a suffocating, lockdown defense? Well, you know what? The numbers from the last couple of decades actually give us a pretty clear answer.
Okay, so check this out. We looked at every Super Bowl winner since the year 2000. Having a top running back?
Yeah, that helps, but only like 19% of the time. Not a huge factor. What about a top quarterback? Now we're talking. That's a key ingredient about 2/3 of the time. But there's one thing that blows both of those out of the water.
And here's the kicker. A whopping 76%, more than 3 out of every 4 Super Bowl champs, had a top 10 defense. Statistically, it's not even a debate. It is the single most important piece of the puzzle. It makes sense, right? A great defense controls the clock, wears the other team down, and takes so much pressure off its own offense to be perfect. That old saying, defense wins championships, turns out it's not just a cliche. The data backs it up.
So, okay, the Broncos are basically using a time-tested, proven recipe for success. So what's the problem? Well, here's the twist. The people who seem to believe in this formula the least are the Broncos themselves.
You've got reporters confirming that guys in the locker room, specifically on offense, are literally using the word unsustainable to describe what they're doing. They feel like they're playing with fire, and that sooner or later, the offense's struggles are going to come back to bite them hard.
And guess what? We're all about to find out if they're right. Because their next game is a massive showdown against their biggest rival, the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Chiefs are the complete opposite. They're the poster child for the modern win-with-offense NFL.
So that's where we're left. It's the ultimate question for this bizarre Broncos team. Are we watching a brilliant throwback? A team that's about to prove that an old-school defense-first formula can still dominate? Or is this all just smoke and mirrors? A fundamentally broken team whose historic defense is just delaying the inevitable, right before the luck finally runs out?